Thank you very much. My name is Promise Beshel and I am happy to answer your question. I like to think of virtualization as one big mansion within which you have several flats. Each flat has a kitchen, a parlor, a closet, a bathroom, basically anything to make life worth living. Now, the key thing is that each flat exists exists in isolation from every other flat within the same mansion. And the occupant of every flat lives as though he or she owns the mansion. This is virtualization in a nutshell. Now, each of these flats would give a technical term virtual machine. Okay, every virtual machine needs some core components to function properly. Okay, the virtual central processing unit ensures that every thinking process to get things done and organized within each flat is top notch, handy, okay, as needed. Now, every thought needs to be put in a temporary area of memory to be collected when needed and executed for things to flow smoothly. That's where your virtual random access memory comes in, or your virtual RAM. Okay. Now you want to be able to walk out of the flat, come back, and you find everything exactly where you have placed it. Okay, whether there is power outage or not. Okay, that's where your virtual storage comes in. That's what it does for you. Whether you shut down the system, reboot it, you're going to still find it where you have kept it, whatever it is you have kept. Okay. Sometimes you would need to communicate with other occupants of other flats, or you want to communicate with people outside of this mansion. Your virtual network interface card is responsible for that activity, for communication both within the mansion and outside of the mansion. Okay. Now, someone needs to keep things organized in this big mansion. Let's call that someone the hypervisor. The hypervisor is analogous to the landlord. Now, the landlord can be a living landlord or the landlord that lives outside of this mansion. The living landlord would be the type 1 hypervisor, otherwise known as the bare metal hypervisor. So called because it exists at the kernel level. It's a kernel based virtual machine. An example of that would be Proxmox or the Microsoft Hyper V, and that's the type 1 hypervisor. Type 2 hypervisor, on the other hand, is the hosted hypervisor, so called because it runs on top of the operating system of the main machine. Okay, an example of the type 2 hypervisor would be VirtualBox or VMware Workstation. All right, the hypervisor ensures that every resource needed by each flat, that's the landlord, the hypervisor, ensures that every resource needed by each flat is well allotted in the right proportion and manages things within the mansion, ensures that there is no encroachment. Obviously, the living landlord will do a better job at this, okay, than the landlord who lives outside of the mansion. Therefore, the type 1 hypervisors are more reliable at delivering this task than the type 2 hypervisors. Now, let's for a moment assume that in this mansion everything is serviced, okay, more like a serviced apartment, a serviced mansion. In other words, you have staff who would do the cleaning, you have staff who would ensure that the entire premises remains secure. What this means is that access to different sections of this mansion will be restricted for some people. This is where role based access control comes in, where some staff members have certain privileges to be able to get into some areas whereas others are not able to. For instance, the cleaners can have access to each flat to get their cleaning jobs done, but the security personnel, naturally, their jurisdiction would be anywhere around just the external perimeter of the property. So, hypervisors ensure that role based access control can take effect. What do we want to virtualize? You can virtualize servers, you can virtualize desktops, you can virtualize applications, you can virtualize network interface cards. Okay, server virtualization is you running different instances of servers on different virtual machines within one system. Okay, uh, virtualization has its pros, it has its cons. The pros of virtualization are desirable by every business, or let's say large size or medium sized business especially. It doesn't mean that small scale businesses cannot adopt virtualization, and in a short while you're going to see why. Let's take a moment to think of data centers. Data centers have lots and lots of servers running therein. Think for a moment that every server running is a physical machine and requires some space. You would have a space filled up with different machines. At some point, you run out of space. Okay, so virtualization compresses or condenses all of those spaces that would have otherwise been occupied by physical systems and puts it in just one system. So you are saving space on one hand. On the other hand, you are saving cost because you are not spending money. The business is not spending money going to procure other machines. How about remote work? Let's take a moment to think of the COVID era. Okay, during COVID, lockdown meant that brick and mortar stores had to be shut down, businesses had to shut down. Yet life had to go on. So people had to find a means of getting work done even when they were not in the office. Remote desktop made this possible for some people. So they could log into their machines, their office machines, from the comfort of their houses, feeling as though they were naturally in the office. All thanks to virtualization. How about application testing and development? Oftentimes, developers will create an isolated environment to test apps they have developed, just to make sure that things are kept contained. There are no spillovers should there be glitches or anything of that nature. How about security? Now, developers also, or individuals, when not sure of what an app can do, the effect it would have on the entire system, be it positive or negative, such apps are deployed in a sandboxed environment. Okay, that's like a safe zone, and they are run. In which case, should anything go wrong, it can be kept contained very easily. That brings us to disaster recovery. Okay, now it's very easy to delete and recreate any virtual machine that poses a threat to the entire network. In the same vein, it's easy to replicate every or any virtual machine of, of interest, especially if you want to create a backup instance of it, aside other backup methods you want to adopt. How about scalability? Depending on the business needs, a business can decide to scale up or scale down depending on the use case or what the what the business requires per given point in time. These are some of the pros of virtualization, but of course, there are also cons of virtualization. First of all, virtualized environments can best be deployed by highly skilled IT professionals. It's very easy to make a mistake, and those mistakes can be very costly. Whether the mistake borders on wrongly configuring a virtual machine or wrongly configuring your hypervisor, things can go south real quickly. How about licensing? Now, because your virtual machine emulates your physical machine, it means if you require a license for the operating system running on your physical machine, you also would require a license for the operating systems running on each virtual machine. Okay, so licensing can be an issue also for virtualization. Let's talk about performance overhead. Bare metal systems or machines outperform virtual machines. Virtualized environments stand no chance where you have bare metal machines, except, of course, uh, for high-end configurations. Okay, and of course, a lot of resources have to go into that to achieve that much level of speed. Uh, Security is also an issue. If you misconfigure a virtual machine, just one glitch can lead to several other loopholes within the system, and of course, could leave the business prone to hackers, and anything negatively imaginable can happen. Virtualization has very key and critical advantages for businesses, especially businesses that are medium or large sized and that have branches across different geographical locations. However, the advantages of virtualization are also beneficial and can be seen at individual levels as well. Take, for instance, one time when I needed to run a software that was not compatible with my local machine's operating system. I had to get my job done, so what did I do? I installed a type 2 hypervisor first of all, after which I now created a virtual instance of a compatible operating system, since my physical machine's operating system was not backward compatible to support the application. At the end of the day, I was able to get my job done. I delivered on that task and I got my due credits for it. Thank you once again for the question, and I hope I have clarified the subject of virtualization. Thank you.